Good day, our esteemed listeners. I'm Dr. Mayegun Rilwan Olawale, a consultant pediatrician with General Hospital Ikorodu, Lagos. I'm here to discuss something that is very important to the health of our community, our state, and the nation as a whole, and that is about taming perinatal morbidities and mortalities. It has been found that Nigeria has a very high perinatal mortality rate, which I will explain what that means. And most of our health indices are not fantastic, they are not okay. So one of the health indices is perinatal mortality, which is defined as the number of fetal deaths past the age of viability, plus the number of deaths among live born babies up to 7 completed days of life per 1,000 live births. To simplify that, that means that how many stillborns are we having after age of viability. In Nigeria, the age of viability is said to be 28 weeks, even though we are trying to bring down the age of viability to something around 26 or even lesser. So, and then we have a lot of babies dying around this age. While neonatal mortality rate is defined as the number of babies dying at less than 28 days of life per 1,000 live births. Our indices in Nigeria, our perinatal mortality rate is still about 40 per 1,000 live birth, while we per 1,000 birth, while in developed countries they have values much less than 10. Some countries have less than 5, and Nigeria has 40. So why are these things happening to us? Why are our babies dying? Why do we have a lot of babies dying before the 7th day of life? And that is what we want to discuss today. We have highlighted like 5 common causes of perinatal mortalities. That is 5 causes, reasons why our babies die before the 7th day of life. So number 1 of them is prematurity. Now, as we all know that babies, pregnancies in humans is expected to last for 9 months. So when babies are born too soon, I mean that is when they are born at 6 months or 7 months or 8 months. So these babies are said to be preterms, and because they are preterms, their organs are not well developed for extrauterine life. So when these babies are born, it's important that they are born in centers that can take care of preterm babies, centers with incubators that can take care of these babies, and that the incubators are just this instrument we have that tries to protect the baby and mimic the intrauterine life. So these babies should not be born outside the hospital or outside an hospital that can take care of preterms, because moving them from one place to another also worsens the outcome of these babies. Now, the second cause of perinatal mortality in our environment is perinatal asphyxia. Perinatal asphyxia is said to have occurred in layman term when babies do not cry at birth. Now, this is usually caused by prolonged labour, difficult deliveries, and when we have poor supply to the baby even in utero. That is the mothers with hypertension, mothers with diabetes. Some of these mothers, even their placenta that should supply the baby in utero are faulty, and then the baby would have suffered some form of lack of blood supply even before being delivered. So such babies, when they are born, they do not cry, and when they don't cry, they get suffocated, and then their brain starts getting damaged. And so once these babies don't cry, they have to be taken to the hospital. That's if they are not born in the hospital, which is not what should be happening and this in this day and time. These babies should be taken to the secondary hospital or tertiary care hospital, where they can be properly taken care of. Slapping babies, turning them upside down, and all these things will only worsen the chance of the baby. And these babies, when they are not properly taken care of, they can develop cerebral palsy or even develop epilepsy later in life. The third thing we are trying to want to discuss that is responsible for our high perinatal mortality are neonatal sepsis and infections. That is when these babies, when they get infections like tetanus, like meningitis, like severe sepsis, so this affects the baby and the babies die. Common causes of these infections are the unhygienic delivery practices, cord care practices. People still deliver their babies at home Imagine delivering a baby in the same parlour where you are, where you walk around. So the babies are predisposed to infection, they suffer infections and they die early in life. So it's important to have adequate cord care. People use a lot of things for cord care that are unhygienic. So we have people using toothpaste, we have people using ashes. When you apply such things on the umbilical cord or on the umbilical stump of the baby, then you predispose the baby to a lot of infection and such babies may die. So the fourth thing we want to discuss is neonatal jaundice. So jaundice is seen in many babies, but not all of them require intervention. So it's important when babies have jaundice that you bring them to the hospital so that we investigate them and know those that require intervention and those that do not. Usually what happens is that this baby develop jaundice, yellowness of the eyes and the body on the second or third day of life, and then people start doing many things like pawpaw, unripe pawpaw concoction, putting under the sun, all these ineffective ways. When these are done, the jaundice continue to rise, and by the time it gets to the fifth day, the sixth day, it rise enough to enter into the baby's brain, and then the baby stop sucking, start running high fever, start having abnormal body movement. When we have this case, then that's when they rush to the hospital, which many times is already too late. So what we want us to do is when we have our babies with jaundice, we need to bring them to the hospital, because when we bring them late to the hospital, they would have suffered encephalopathy, that's the damage to the brain, and then this affects this baby and they don't walk when they should, and they don't sit when they should, and they can develop cerebral palsy later in life. Finally, we want to discuss poor nutrition. Poor nutrition is a common cause of perinatal mortality and morbidity in our environment because of some myth and poor traditional practices with respect to breastfeeding. We have said this several times that babies should be breastfed exclusively in the first 6 months of life, but due to some traditional issues, some will say the colostrum, the first set of milk that comes from the new mom is dirty, and then they start giving the baby water or glucose and all those, so the baby is being starved, is not taking enough, and then the baby starts going hypoglycemic, has low sugar in the body, has hypothermia, and many of them die early in life. So it's important that we don't give babies hyper concussion, water or anything after for the first 6 months of life, because these practices worsen our health indices and increases perinatal morbidity and mortality. So how do we prevent this? So we have graded our prevention into the 5 levels of prevention. So we start with the general protection. So under the general protection, we have health education. Health education is what we are doing here. Inform people, let people know what the cause of their problems are. When they know these causes, then they know how to prevent them better. So it's important, and where we get these health educations are through forums like this, and then through an ten atal care. When mothers at ten atal care, they get this health education, and we also do this on radio jingles, television. This information is key. Information is key for to better our health indices and for the survival of our babies. Then improvement of socio-economic status. Many people come late to the hospital, they deliver at home because they don't have money, they don't have enough money to seek health care. Then it's also important that we educate our females. Female education has been found to be one of the key child survival strategies, because when a woman is educated, she knows better how to assimilate information, how to get information, and how to use the information. So when mothers are educated, their babies survive more. Environmental sanitation is also important, because it's not just to prevent these 5 things I've mentioned, but for general health promotion generally. A good environment prevents a lot of infection, a lot of diseases. Then there should be improvement in infrastructure. Infrastructure includes good roads and electricity, and all these things are important. Many people live in areas that are not motor that healthcare are not as easily accessible, and so the infrastructure gap cause delay in seeking healthcare. Then there is need for a nationwide affordable health insurance. paying out of pocket to seek health care is very very cumbersome, and that is responsible for our worsening health indices. Now there should be improved in security of the nation. When the environment is not secured, many people will be afraid to seek health care, particularly in some ungodly hours. If a woman falls into labour by 2 a.m, she will tell you she can't go out because there is no security in the environment. So it's in order to improve the security of the nation, and then we should also improve food security. Now coming to specific protection, key among the things we can do to prevent perinatal mortality is that there should be adequate an ten atal care. All pregnant women should at ten d an ten atal care, because in an ten atal care, during the an ten atal care, they will get the tetanus toxoid that will prevent them and their babies from having tetanus, which is a common cause of perinatal mortality. Then they also get a lot of care that will prevent their babies from being born prematurely, prevent them from perinatal asphyxia, prevent them from a lot of problems. We can even anticipate a lot of problems even before the babies are born. So adequate an ten atal care is key if we want to prevent perinatal mortality. Then there should be hygienic delivery and cord care practices. Babies should be born where they should be born, which is in the hospital, and the hospital should be clean enough that babies don't get infected because of the unhygienic place they were giving birth to. And then cord care should be done ideally either with chlorhexidine gel or with the methylated spirit and cotton wool used to clean it. We don't use dirty things to clean the cord. Then there should be discouragement of dangerous traditional practices. Topmost among that is this massaging of the cord with rag and all those things. It's not hygienic. It predisposes the babies to infection. So as we are discussing on the specific protection, a very key thing in specific protection against perinatal morbidity and mortalities is exclusive breastfeeding. It's one of the key child survival strategies. Babies should be exclusively breastfed. We don't want babies to take herbal concoction or water or glucose. They should only take breast milk and drugs that are prescribed by the doctors, not just them taking anything because people are asking them to take it. So the other level of prevention is early diagnosis and prompt treatment. Patients should present early to the hospital. When babies are sick, take them to the hospital as soon as possible. Then when they get to the hospital, there should be prompt institution of the proper management. So for us to achieve this, there should be training and retraining of health workers. Healthcare is evolving. In the past, the age of viability used to be 28 weeks. Now it's dropping, and even in our own hospital, General Hospital Ikorodu, we have babies as early as 25, 26 weeks being born in the hospital, and they are surviving. So healthcare is evolving. So it's important we train our staff to take care of preterms, to take care of asphyxiated babies, to take care of jaundice, and do the right thing. At the same time, we have to have proper equipment to take care of these babies when they have any of this, and this will help us a lot to improve our health indices. Then getting to limitation of disability, which is one of the points of our levels of prevention. Some babies will come late. They will come without, they are already asphyxiated, they already have acute behavioral encephalopathy. So we need to do what we can to limit their disability. We need to come to the clinic regularly for follow-up. We need to start them on physiotherapy so that they can still attain some level of function. Then there should also be rehabilitation. This rehabilitation involves occupational therapy, the school of children with special needs, and then we need to provide support groups for affected families. It can be very challenging to take care of babies or children with special needs. So we need to create these support groups for them, and the government needs to be involved in making sure these babies are well rehabilitated. So in conclusion, what we are saying is that Nigeria still has an unacceptably high perinatal and early neonatal mortality rate, very very high. The leading causes of these perinatal morbidities and mortalities, they are highly preventable. Many times we can prevent them. So why don't we prevent them? So we can do this prevention by ensuring good an ten atal care, clean delivery and cord care practices, as well as early presentation in the hospital. This will help us reduce this our scary statistics. Then together we can make Nigeria a safe place where babies are born healthy and they remain so. This is our message for us. Let's work together to make Nigeria a better place to be. Thank you.